Okay, hi, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone who is joining us. Welcome and thank you for being here in this new session with CareerFoundry, this time focused in the field of product design. In a bit, we'll delve into the 10 reasons why it is a very good and rewarding career. But meanwhile, I would like to invite you to go ahead and share in the chat where you're from and why you are interested in product design. And of course, feel free to drop any comment along the session. Our guest of this career talk is Florian Bölter, here next to me on the screen. And we are pleased to have him today because he was one of the CareerFoundry students that successfully transitioned into the field. And he currently works as senior product designer at Juro. Florian will share a bit more about himself and his inspiring career change in a bit. My name is Belinda. I'm events manager here at CareerFoundry, and I would like to tell you a bit about CareerFoundry for those who are new to the channel. CareerFoundry is the online career academy for aspiring tech professionals. We guide you from complete beginner to job-ready professional in product design and help you land your first job in the field. With our programs, you can develop the skills of in-demand professions, upskills in the tools of the future, and work with expert mentors and career specialists to stay ahead of the job market. And all of this in a flexible online setup and with a job guarantee at graduation. A few things before we kick things off. This session is being recorded and we will send the recording out tomorrow via email for those who are registered in Big Marker. Also, after the presentation, we will have a Q&A to address all of your questions. So please drop them in the chat in the Q&A tab, and we will try to answer them at the end. And on the other hand, if you have any question regarding CareerFoundry programs, the best you could do is to book a call with one of our program advisors. They are lovely people, and they will answer all of your questions and even provide you with further information. And that's all from my side. I'll pass right now the floor to Florian, and I hope you enjoyed this session a lot. And yeah, Florian, go ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good that you're here. I'm very happy to be here. So yeah, we're going to talk today about 10 reasons why product design is a good career. And I mean that because I do live it. I am a CareerFoundry graduate, so I come from where you could come from, I suppose. And yeah, I'll talk about a little bit about myself in a second. As you already heard from Belinda, CareerFoundry is an online career academy that makes tech careers happen in various different fields. But you're obviously here for design, specifically for product design, which is, I think, the latest course. Back when I graduated CareerFoundry, there wasn't a product design course yet. Although I did become a product designer, despite or still. And we're going to talk about how that worked as well, of course. So who am I? So I started my design journey in 2020 with CareerFoundry. Before that, I was a product manager for a year. So I was kind of already in tech, although it was a very local company. So I wasn't in big tech or anything, and not in a tech hub or whatever else, not in an environment that would really enable me to go big. And before that, I studied something completely different. I have a master's degree in literature. So if you want to talk about stories and books, we can certainly do that. But especially German literature, but which is, by the way, also where I'm based. I'm based in Germany. And I kind of made the jump into tech through these couple of detours. And in 2020, I made the decision to start my career, kind of reboot my career with design. And I took the UI course back then because that was what I thought would complement my skills best to eventually become a product designer, because I kind of already knew I wanted to go into that direction. And therefore, I decided to take that course with CareerFoundry. So I graduated after a couple of months, and then found my first role basically a couple of months later, and well, here we are now today. That is not my first role that I'm still in. I've changed companies once in the meantime, and now I work at Juro, which is a legal tech that is Series B funded and is trying to revolutionize contract management. We already are. We are already revolutionizing it. And on top, and that might be of interest for you, especially if you are thinking about getting into design, or maybe already started your journey into design. I'm the founder of Open Doors, which is an online platform that specifically seeks to help junior designers make the switch. I do have a newsletter, a big newsletter that goes out every week, showing you the latest opportunities in the field, but also covers topics that are interesting for junior designers, such as job search tips, what your portfolio needs to have, what your resume needs to have. All of these topics are covered there. I regularly make sure to cover all those topics that you're really interested in. But I think it's also interesting for people who are just thinking about transitioning to design, not only for those that are already made this step. That is that. That's also, by the way, the short overview. I work fully remote. It won't matter too much for the topic we're going to cover today. A little bit maybe, but I think it shows that you don't necessarily need to relocate to any fancy place. You can, and it might help you, but in my case, it just worked out fine like that. And I still live in the city I lived in before, and I work remote for an international company. Let's dive in. Before I go over all of those nice reasons over why product design in particular is a good career, I would really love to tell you a bit more about what the actual difference is between UX design and product design, because these words or these titles are often used interchangeably, but they are definitely different things. They are not completely different, and they are still operating in the same space. They are partially doing the same things as well, but I think what's a fair assessment is that product design goes beyond what UX design does, and therefore it made it a more attractive career, more attractive role to strive for myself, for example, and maybe for you as well. So UX design traditionally focuses on optimizing product usability and user satisfaction in general. These are at the core of what you do as a UX designer. Yes, you do look at the business. You do have to look at technical constraints that you face when you design something. You can't just go there and just dream up something fancy that works perfectly for the users, but is not possible to implement on a technical end, obviously. But your main focus really lies with the product usability and the user satisfaction. So whenever more other constraints come into play, UX designers often resort to the product owner or product manager to look at these things and work it out together with them, while the product designer encompasses that strict focus on usability and user satisfaction while still doing it and still having it. But the product designer looks a lot more holistically at strategy, those technical constraints, and the business aspects of the product development. And what I think is a fair assessment overall is they generally look more at the big picture of what the product is and where the product goes, and they have more of a vision. All that being said, this is not, I don't say that to degrade UX design. UX is an immense part, as you can see in that Venn diagram over there. It is one of the pillars of product design, and it's incredibly important. But it just it has its place next to the other two, which are business strategy and visual design. Those are also two big things that are very important in product design. We'll talk a bit more about some of these aspects later on when I come to the reasons. But overall, UX is still a core part of this. Super important, nothing you should neglect or like make big trade-offs on. Absolutely not. But product design prides itself in doing this kind of like thinking beyond those things as well, and making sure that everyone kind of comes together. So as a career, it's very multifaceted. It combines a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different skill areas that you need to have. And it opens up a wider range of things you can like focus on, which we'll also talk about a little bit more. So there's creativity that's definitely asked for. You need to think strategically. Technology and general knowledge around technology, which does not mean you need to code, by the way, just to kind of already deal with that question, because I'm pretty sure it'll come. There are maybe like 1 in 1,000 roles or 1 in 500 or something that will require coding skills because it's a very specific, special role. But right now in 2024, a product designer that can code is more the exception than anything else. That being said, it's not wrong if you can do that. It's actually quite nice, and it might come in very handy in a couple of years or even now, but it's not a requirement, just to say that. And lastly, you solve complex problems. So you have to be able to really think big, like think really like take complex things and put them into something that's easy to use, and a general proper solution. The role overall has a really big potential for impact. As I said, you are going to look at what the user is going to benefit from. So if you imagine you have an app, a shopping app, for example, you're going to look at how to make it as easy as possible for the user to find what they're looking for and to eventually buy it, for example. And you will obsess over some of those details. But at the same time, what you're going to do is you're also going to look at how the business is going to get the most out of that process, and how the business can ensure that they are going to sell through that process as much as possible, and how they can solve problems that they might face at the moment. Excuse me. That they might face at the moment. And in the end, ideally, you had a big positive impact on both of this. There's even more to this, which we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. You will have impact on more people than just the business and users. But those are definitely the two main parties, basically, that you're going to have an impact on, and that ideally in the end will thank you for your work. So yeah, let's dive into the challenges. No, not into the challenges, but into the reasons why it's a good career. And that is new challenges all the time. So on the right side, you can see two projects or two products really that I've worked on. The one at the bottom is what I'm currently working on, which is at Juro, the contract management software that is Juro. I'm working on that, and it's really complex. There's a lot of constraints that lawyers or generally legal people face that this product needs to solve. Negotiating contracts, signing contracts, but also generating contracts from data that can come from all over, from other software, from manual input, whatever else you can think of. So that's a huge challenge, but obviously a very specific one. The one that you see on the top is a streaming software that I used to work for before I joined Juro. It was called HeyGo, and it was a startup that was situated in the travel space. So there was travel content from all over the world that was live streamed, and people could chat with each other and chat with the guide as well, leave tips and take so-called postcards, which were basically screenshots. But with a nice little interaction. They could also see on the map where the guide was going, all of these cool things. But as you can see, it's like an entirely different product. And it's not unusual in your career that when you switch your workplace in this career, that the next product you work on will be a completely different world, will come with its own set of new challenges, and be completely different from the one you've worked on before. Obviously, there are also people who always try to stay in the same industry. That is a little bit up to you, really, what you want to do. I personally like diverse challenges, and for me, that is a big reason why this is a great career. And then that being said, that is just changing workplaces, but also inside of your workplace, you will always face new challenges with new projects. No project will be like any other you've done before. Maybe you will have a similar project you did in another company before because they did develop a similar feature there. That can happen. And then there are also some repeated challenges like design systems, but even there, they will be in different states. They will face different constraints, and you will always have challenges that are different every day. Overall, it's super innovation driven, which means that even if you faced a similar challenge before, maybe this time it's time to think about it in a different light, and actually go at it with more innovation than maybe you did in the last place where you solved it, because now the product allows for it. For example, think about the Apple Vision Pro that was just launched, the new virtual or augmented reality goggle that Apple launched. And eventually you go to a company that develops an app for that particular device, which is a very new field for us designers. And you end up there and you have to design something that in general you designed before, but for a web-based product maybe. And now the constraints of that new device make that a completely different challenge. And there are totally new things to work out for this challenge compared to what you had when you solved this challenge first. So that'll always be a thing. Let's jump to the next reason, the collaborative nature. So if you think about designers, or if I ask people that don't know exactly what I'm doing and I tell them I'm a designer, they always think, oh, okay, so you sit in your room all day and by yourself and you draw things or something like that. You make things pretty or whatever. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. Obviously the part of just making things pretty and all of that is already very far from the truth. But what I'm actually aiming at is the part where I'm not doing this alone. Product designers usually don't work in a silo. If you work freelance, you might do that a little bit more. But if you work in an in-house role, like I so far always did, you will likely be embedded in a cross-functional team, which means you will have a developer, at least one, usually more than that, a product manager or some other sort of product function like product owner, and yourself as the designer in there, maybe even a researcher, depending on the size of the team and the organization. And you will have to work very closely together with these people to make everything happen. You will have to talk to the product manager to make sure you get the requirements of this, of the thing that you are to design, and you have to be very close with that person to make sure that everything is 100% aligned. You will have to talk to the developers to make sure that everything is technically feasible. While you will have an understanding of your own about certain technical limitations, there will always be questions about edge cases or whatever that will only be, you will only get the answer to if you talk to developers. And then throughout the process, you will always consult with these people. And even when you hand off your designs, very often that's not the end. You will still talk to developers about the implementation to make sure that they really implemented the way that you intended to. At least in a good place of work, that usually happens. And so that is a very collaborative approach and a very collaborative setting that you will find yourselves in. That also requires very good communication skills. So if you are someone who likes to communicate with other people, who likes to present, who likes to just talk to people, that is also something that will resonate with you, because that is something you will have to do every day. I think I write and talk more than I actually design in Figma, or wherever else you might design. Usually you do it in Figma, right? But I do write up a lot of things to make sure I understand problems well before I actually do anything that is considered design, but actually the writing part is very much part of it. So communication skills is very important. The work is impactful. So if you look at those screens there, this is a project from someone that from a junior designer that I supported. The bottom one is the work of the junior designer. The one on the top is what it was before. This is, I think, an insurance company somewhere in South America. I think Argentina. I'm not 100% sure, but I think Argentina. And she did a redesign for that company. And I mean, these pictures, you can see that the change is big, but you can also guess already that the user experience in the above example was not a very good one. Like, I mean, besides that, it looks horrendous and it looks like it comes from, like, I don't know, 20 years ago. It was just a pain to use. And you have the impact with your designs to change the perception and the feeling that people have when they use the product you work on. And obviously, we'll not always do everything 100% right. There will be users that maybe complain about something you did. That will happen. But overall, you will see how you will impact people in a positive way if you do your work well. And that's something that's incredibly rewarding. And that's just the micro or macro kind of this. If you zoom out a little bit, in product design, you obviously also have the opportunity to work in companies that revolutionize the area that they operate in. So you are an important part in making, in being a change, potentially. You join a startup, and that startup is the next big thing, revolutionizing something. Like, imagine a couple of years ago, we didn't really have grocery delivery services that much. And imagine having been a part of that and defining the first products that were emerged in that space, working on those products. Those products had an immense impact on society and on how people shop and everything. So there's also this bigger picture impact that you can have with your work. Okay, the next reason is the broad industry relevance. I've worked in the streaming field and also now in the legal tech area, but it could very well be that the next time I join a company, I'll join a company in health tech, for example, or in entertainment. There's just so much that requires good product design and so many different types of organizations and fields and industries that hire designers. So first of all, you will have different types of organizations, from startup, scale up, small to medium-sized businesses, big corporate, non-profit, government, agency work. Every single one of those hires product designers. Yes, non-profit work will be harder to find. It'll be paid a bit less. And government work is definitely not for everyone, and it might be hard to get in there because of all the clearance stuff, but it exists. All of them are there, and if that's something you strive for, you can make that happen eventually. Obviously, if you're flexible, that just means there's a very broad, very broad range of like organizations that you can join. But the overall idea would be to kind of like select a few that resonate the most with you, because a targeted approach in your job search will always be better. But we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But then there's also a lot of industries, right? So if you're not in government, but instead you are more in startup or in the corporate space, wherever in that like normal types of businesses, you will have the choice of like many industries. I already named a few with healthcare, legal tech, finance, education, property or prop tech, however you want to call it. And those are just a few. Entertainment. There's a lot of industries that require this. And you won't be short of opportunities there. Next reason, the versatility in the career paths. So if you now think, okay, I will draw rectangles in Figma and talk to my teammates for 50 years until the end of my career, you could, I suppose. You certainly could, but you don't have to, because design work is not only the actual design work itself. If you would like to stay on that path, like, actually designing things, you can stay an IC, an individual contributor, until the end of your career. It really depends on where the industry is going, obviously, but currently you could. Then there's also management paths where we have design managers and head of designs or directors and all of those more mature, more senior positions that will come a little bit later in your career, but still you will be able to make the switch to this path if that's something you want and you excel in, you can do very well. And even for those that can't decide, there are roles out there. There are lead design roles that will still do IC work, but also have people responsibilities, where you have to manage one or two juniors or senior designers under you. That will also happen, or can also happen, especially in larger companies, more like enterprise type companies. You will definitely have those setups, and you'll be able to do both if that's something you strive for. And then there are also a lot of specializations inside of product design alone, but also UX design is its own thing, research is its own thing. And you can also, as I said, in product design, choose different like directions that align well with your strengths, because that's, after all, what it comes down to. So yeah, that's another reason. Let's continue. The sixth one is competitive compensation. And one thing, before I talk about this, what I want to say is this particular reason should not resonate the most with you out of all the ones that I showed. And it should ideally also not be in your top three. I get why that is appealing. Like, I get why it's appealing to choose a career that pays much better than the one you're currently in, or generally, coming out of university or something, choosing something that just pays well. That is true. Like, there's no denying it. Even though we have seen like tiny setbacks compared to like COVID times, where like hiring was going on a lot and salaries went up like crazy to an extent, we're still in an extremely good place, because especially the curve for compensation, as you can see with the graph from Google, there is like insane. You at some point kind of like, I think, quadruple what you initially made when you started out, if not even more. And that is a reality. I mean, you obviously have to make sure you make smart choices here to get the most out of that. But overall, that's something that product design definitely enables you to do, as most other tech careers also do, by the way. Like, just to say that it's not only design here. But this should obviously not be your driving motivation, because if you go for this with this particular reason in mind, or with this reason as like one of the top reasons, you might be in for disappointment, because the work is not as easy as it might sound at times, It will be stressful at times, depending on where you work and how you work and like how you're generally attuned to working. And it will be something that will burn you out if you don't have a passion for it. And I've seen this, by the way. Like I've seen this with people that said like, this is like easy money. I'm going in here, and a couple of years later, they swapped to something completely different because it might have been still a springboard for them to like go into one of the other tech careers out there, and just having been in tech being beneficial. But obviously, I don't want you to burn out. Like that's a nice thing. That was not nice for these people either, and that's not worth the money you make along the way. So. Yeah, that being said, it's not all about just money, especially in tech, but also for design roles. You know, there are other things that are also that I'd also count to compensation that make it appealing, I suppose, which is equity. Especially if you join startups, you usually get some kind of equity. And if that startup goes big, you will go big as well, which is obviously cool. In most cases, it doesn't work out, so never bet on it, but it is part of it. There's a chance. And then there are usually, you know, nice benefits. If you're, for example, in the US, you very often get medical care or healthcare on top, and other things that in other industries and other careers you might wish for, or you just get if you're really on the top of the chain. You usually get that in tech, you know, as a given, kind of. So yeah, that being said, take this on with a big grain of salt and make sure that this one is not the one that excites you the most. Continuous learning. This is one I love a lot because I do love to learn. This can be an argument against a career in product design as well, because if you are just like, oh God, like whenever I learn something, I'm glad when it's over. This might also be something you want to reconsider then, because this field evolves on a yearly basis. I think that's a fair assessment. I've been with this for over 4 years now, and this change I've seen just in that comparably short amount of time is quite insane. In other professions, you have to update every 5 or 10 years, and then updates are sometimes, you know, very small. But in this field, we see new devices that become relevant. I've already mentioned the Apple Vision Pro, for example. You see new types of working, like Airbnb not really having product managers anymore, or Notion having designers that actually code. Those are things that change over time. But even like these are bigger picture changes. But even if you look at like the smaller level, you still have trends that change every year. And while you won't just adopt every trend like blindly every year and have to like learn new techniques, over time the visual standards change. For example, AI is a really big topic right now in design. Like everyone's looking for designers that can design for AI properly. But obviously everyone is just starting out kind of still. So it's a bit of a tough thing. And the people that learn a lot and that like dive headfirst into these topics, these new topics and trends, they are the ones that come out the most successful. And they are the ones that come out being influential as well, if that's something you strive for. So if you like to learn, this is a really good career. If you hate to learn, this is not a good career. And if you're in the middle, you will probably manage. But know that the people that like to learn and that are always, you know, try to be first in something, usually get the better cut. But that does not necessarily need to demotivate you there in that sense. And then also learning budgets are, I think, an important topic here. A lot of companies will will actually support you in learning new things, because obviously they want to invest into you as well, because if they invest in you, they invest in themselves as well. So learning budgets are pretty standard. The range or the amount obviously varies, but you usually get money to either go to a conference, take a course, or whatever else, buy books, whatever else helps you to develop new skills and stay on top of everything. So that's one. Reason 8, and we already talked about this briefly when I mentioned that I work fully remote. Flexible working conditions are pretty standard in the tech field, and especially for designers, because it does work well for our role. I said that it's very collaborative, that's right, but a lot of the collaboration can happen either asynchronous or at least, through video call. There is often no real benefit from like sharing an office space, at least not in your cross-functional teams. Obviously, a lot of designers do work in the office, but to be fair, most that have the option I see at home. Like, for example, my company, there are a couple of designers, a couple of people that live close to one of our office hubs, and they're never in there because they don't really need to. Like, there's no strong need for this. So you will often find hybrid or even full remote options. Again, like something, if you can, I wouldn't fully rely on, like I did, or like fully focus on, but keep it in mind that there will come a time where you will be the most flexible you've ever been in your work life with this, I think. And that obviously also goes for like other things that you understand for like with work-life balance and all of those things. This is generally very healthy. Except obviously there are exceptions. It will vary if you're in like a bigger corporate type organization or a startup. It can go into both extremes there as well. But usually you have a very good balance here, I think, overall. And then there are also global opportunities. So I work for a UK-based company, and I'm employed in Germany still, like officially, or legal, obviously. This is a legal tech company. They don't make mistakes in that area. But that's something that is in tech in general can happen, where you have a company in one country but you're actually in another, or if the company is still in the same country, you still might have a lot of colleagues from all over the world, especially if you are living in like a city that would be considered a tech hub. There's a good chance you will have people that came from all over the world to work there, which is cool, which I appreciate that a lot. Like I that's one of my main reasons why I like working in this kind of environment. Reason 9, you can be creative. And that means that you can find creative ways to solve problems, to solve user and business problems. I have some examples on over there, which I thought, were like a creative and nice way of solving a problem. Just 2 examples out of millions. But there's one thing you should not confuse this with. Design is not art. So if you're looking for a job where you can like express yourself like fully, that is something you won't find here, because you will have way too many constraints and way too many factors you will have to look at to feel free in this, like to just design something that is exactly, as you please, and that's maybe expressing you or your personality or something like that. That is art, but design is not art. That's a very different thing. Yes, design is also very visual, and it shares that with art, and there is sometimes overlap. Art can be used in design, for example, like these little nice illustrations. An artist, an illustrator did this. And if you like to illustrate, that might be a nice skill that you have that will add onto your design skills, but the design itself will never be like that, because that's very, very different. And like freedom of expression in terms of like creative expression is obviously something that works very different here. But nonetheless, it is still a creative job. It's a lot more creative. than many other careers in tech, but also outside of tech. And you will be able to work with color, you will be able to work with shapes, and overall, find creative solutions, because creativity is not only purely visual always, right? Like creativity also means innovation, and also means coming up with a smart way of doing something, and that is not inherently visual necessarily always. So yeah, but it is that. And now to the last reason: you are making a real difference. We kind of touched on this a little bit when I said you will have an impact, but this is a slightly different angle. So first of all, design is very often inclusive. So you will create products that are accessible to many, many people, or even strive to be accessible to all people. This obviously depends a lot on the product and like on the company goal and the company like philosophy to an extent. But generally, design is very much looking after people with disabilities, people that are marginalized, people that are that have some sort of disadvantage in whatever way. And design's very conscious of that. And generally, when you have a good design culture and a higher design maturity in a company, you will always find the company being very responsive to you, including as many people, groups, and whatever else as possible. So that's something that makes, I think, a real difference for people, for the users of the products you design. And then why I've listed or shown these logos over there, you probably recognize all of those, I hope. You have the chance to be part of something that's transformative. These companies have all revolutionized the way that we do certain things. Listen to music, watch movies, watch series, take phone calls, or that we travel. And obviously, these, you will probably not make like get your first position in one of these, but you might join a company that is just on their way to be there. Very much possible. And therefore you will have the chance over your career, like in the long term, to create products that are really transformative in their industry, in their area, or in general. So, and that's also something that, like, I think for me, it's really like something that resonated with me when I chose this career. So yeah, those were the reasons. Now, before we go to the questions, I want to talk a little bit about like the skills that are required to succeed in product design. When I say succeed, I mean, make an entry and then progress in your career. There are the core skills. This is usually what the course would kind of teach you, or no, actually not what the course would teach you, but this is ideally like some things that you definitely bring, like essentials. You have to be creative in at least, to a certain degree. You have to have empathy. If other people, if you don't care about other people at all, this will be hard. Because even though you don't do only research here, where you really have to like feel for other people all the time, you will have to often try to understand the user and like basically get into their skin. And also into the business and the stakeholders and all the other people involved. So empathy is super important. Strategic thinking is also quite important. You have to be quite strategic when you design, not only inside of your project that you're currently working on, but also like what else you're working on, maybe like if you work on a couple of projects, and also for the product in general, you have to think in a very strategic way. And then you have to have some sort of technical proficiency. So if you struggle to save a file as a PDF right now, that like you might have other things to catch up on first, because this career definitely requires you to have certain technical understanding of how things work in the digital space. And if you struggle with like basic, software usage, this might be tough because you are one of the people responsible for now creating these softwares. And if you don't feel comfortable in software in general, it'll be tricky. And also having like some sort of understanding for like what coders, like what developers do in general, not in specific, again, not coding requirement. You should ideally know like generally what goes on over there. It's not a black box. Shouldn't be a black box to you. Then there are hard skills. This is what the course teaches you mostly, and that is what you can acquire fairly easily, I'd say. Those are the skills like the methodology, like when to do what, how these actual methods work, the design patterns and the rules, the visual rules, like hierarchy, how like what does a heading need to do compared to like normal text in the body, or how can I evoke emotions with color, stuff like that. And then also the tools. A lot of people overestimate the tools. Learning Figma, yes, it is your tool. If you are a painter, you need to know how to use a brush. But if you don't know how to mix the paint, the brush won't help you at all because you paint the wrong color with the brush. So the tools are, you have to learn them to a certain degree, but you don't have to master them as a junior. Absolutely not. And now the soft skills. And this is what makes the difference. Soft skills are things that come on top of the core skills, really, and sometimes are an extension of those. There can be things like project management, stakeholder management, communication skills, collaboration skills, writing, customer centricity, or generally, customer oriented work. Excuse me. That is like super important stuff. And those are things that are highly valued by businesses. And those are the things that will make you stand out in the long run. And now I tell you why that is important. One thing I don't want to hide from you is the current state of the market, especially if you compare it to like 2-3 years ago. It is a competitive market, and it is a market where companies currently have like the high ground, basically, and they can very much choose who they hire. And to stand out in such an environment that is, that has few junior roles and otherwise often asked for 2 to 3 years of experience, in order to compensate that, you will need to really bring out those skills, those soft skills. If you have managed projects, if you have worked with customers, if you have driven business metrics like conversion rates in marketing, for example, things like that, this translates 1-to-1 into design, and you will be just fine with these things. On the right side are 2 people that I mentor, or that I have mentored, because at least the one on the bottom has just found a job and was just hired last week, not 2 weeks ago now, after basically, working with me to bring out her soft skills and make sure that she leverages her past career as a landscape designer. And basically I told her how to play her strengths pretty well. And lo and behold, after making those changes, interviews started to come in. She landed a job eventually. And she had no prior design experience. Well, landscape design, but not product design. So in the market, it is not easy. It's not, if you look out there, you will find people that struggle. You will. But there are definitely ways out of this. And CareerFoundry is very much there to support you with that. You have a career advisor that will already tell you a lot about these things. And there's always people like me that you can approach on LinkedIn that will help you out to the best extent possible as well. And if you get that already, you might or don't even need all that, because you will maybe just be able to work that out perfectly fine for yourself. So now I've talked a long time. Are there any questions? I'm pretty sure there are. Let's take a look. That's where Belinda comes in.
I'm back. Thank you so much, Florian, for this wonderful presentation, because it's been super insightful and very informative. So thank you not just for sharing the 10 great reasons why product design is a good career choice, also for giving advice of what are the most important skills to stand out in the current job market, which is really important for the people who really would like to transition into the product design field. So hopefully you can acquire those skills and successfully transition into this exciting field. So thank you so much for your great work, Florian, as always. And now it's time for questions. We have many questions from the audience that we will address right now. And now it's your time. If anyone still have any question, please drop them in the chat and we will answer them. But I would like to ask you, as a true career changer, how long did it take you to fully transition?
Yeah, good question. So I started my course in July, I think, then finished it in October. So that was around, July, August, September, October, like around 4 months, close, or 3.5. And then I started like a contract role a month after that, that I found by chance. And from that contract role, I went directly into my full-time job 3 months later, I think. So if you count that together, that should make like a little over half a year, I guess, if you're like generous. Although if you want to count the contract role already, that would kind of be for like 5 months, 4 or 5 months, not even. But yeah, I opted for a full-time role, and I personally didn't consider my transition like complete until I got that. So yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Like 7-8 months. And to be fair, I would always recommend being a bit more generous with that if you can, because what will happen if you don't do that is you will like go like to basically you will go over half time, and then you'll start to panic, and you will feel a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, just because you might not be exactly where you want to be at that time already, because it is very unpredictable. Like hiring is always unpredictable. And also, the course, maybe you have to, I don't know, you have to do it a couple of weeks longer than you thought you would. That can always happen, right? So make sure that you're generous with this, and take I think like 3/4 of a year is definitely a fair assessment. Up to 1 year. Obviously, that's assuming you take course full time. If you take it part time next to your job that you currently have, it'll take you longer. At least the course will. The job search might not. Depends. Depends on other factors, but that's what. Yeah.
Nice. So you consider yourself like one of the lucky one who did the transition kind of quite quick, but also because you just focus on doing that transition, right?
Yeah, that's true. I did it full time. I focused fully on this, treated it as a full-time job, which, well, I suppose with the amount of work I put in it was for sure. I did not relax too much in between. Obviously, I took my breaks and made sure that I don't burn out or anything like that. But I did treat it as like some sort of a nice 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, really. Yeah, I did that.
Great. Okay, let's go over the question from the audience. We have so many. We are going to try to address all of them. And thank you, everyone, for posting them. So we have, I'm sorry if I pronounce anyone's name wrongly. It's not my intention. So Kanye is asking, do you think that product design could be described as the bridge middleman between UX design and development?
Not necessarily development, but it is a bridge. It is a bridge between UX design, product management, and the business, and also the visual design. So it's kind of like it's an intersection of kind of like 3 to 4 things. Development is a part of it as well. However, as I said, you will not code in I don't know, in every role except for like 1% or something. And you will have to make sure that it is feasible for development together with engineers. So you need some sort of technical understanding to a certain degree, so that when the developer talks to you, you at least understand, the foundations of what he's talking about. He won't talk to you about particular code. He will talk to you about like concepts that they have in development, for example, and you need to grasp that to a certain extent. But it's not necessarily a bridge between those two. It's more a connecting user goals, business goals, which includes stakeholder goals, for example, and also the visual part, like the UI and everything. So UX designers often don't do UI if they are dedicated UX designers. As a product designer, you will do UI for sure. Yeah. So yeah, with like a slight adjustment, I guess I've answered that question.
Nice. Okay, let's move on to a question that we have from Michael. I guess with your career transition, you already answered this question a little bit. Is it easy to learn UX design and perhaps transfer to product design after?
So, a bit conflicted on this. So what my route was, I had some UX foundations that I had from my product management role, and then really just like self-learned stuff, not a wealth of information or skills or whatever. And then I took the UI course because I knew that product design will involve both, and I had no experience whatsoever with UI and never had a job that was visual or like, at all. And I made that decision because at that point there was no product design course. If there would have been, I would have taken that because I knew I wanted to go product design. And CareerFoundry offers that course because it's possible. It's very much possible. What I would look at to make that decision, so I can't give you a 100% straight answer, because what you want to look at maybe is, do you possess a lot of those soft skills I talked about, like project management, stakeholder management, I don't know, stuff like that, like all those things I said there. Not all of them, obviously, but if you possess a few of them, I think you will be just fine, because the product design course will teach you the UX foundations that you need for this. And while I've seen people transition from UX course to product design as well, why take the detour? Like, it's not necessarily something you need to do. So if that's really your dedicated goal and you don't want to keep it open or something, I would take the product design course and learn product design instead of just focusing purely on UX before that. This might make sense for people who have a strong visual background, like graphic designers. That can make sense there, because if you feel very confident about UI skills, or being able to master or not master, but like adopt those pretty quickly, having a bit more of a UX focus might help. In that case, you might be good with that. But if you come from a completely different career, and you bring a certain set of soft skills, go for product design.
Nice. I hope this helps. So you would say, like, before taking any decision of taking a course, explore first which one is the the right fit for you, for your desires and for your goals, and then pick the course or the field that you would like the most once you have explored both fields, right?
Ideally, yes, exactly. And actually, there's one good thing to help you with that, which is the short courses that CareerFoundry offers. You can take these 7-day email courses for free on CareerFoundry site. I don't know if you can maybe drop a link to those in there. That's what I did back then. And then I realized that in the UX part, in the UX course, I knew quite a bit of that already. And I felt comfortable with that already because I self-learned a little bit in my product management job about these things because I had to. And I was like, okay, if I take this, this will teach me a few things I already know. And I know I want to do product design, and I don't know anything about the stuff that was talked about in the UI short course. So I took that course. For me, that was the right decision. I don't regret doing that. And if you now take the product design course and feel like that's going to, like, I don't know anything about any of this, yeah, you might just want to take that. But if you have like some sort of prior skills in one or the other area, like UX or UI, you could think about like taking the one that will complement your existing skills best.
Nice advice. Thank you, Florian. Thank you for bringing up the short courses that CareerFoundry offers. They are super helpful. So I just shared the link in the chat. So hopefully you could take, there is for UX design, there is for UI design, there is for product design. So you could take the three of them if you are not, to clear up your mind. So it's good for you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. We have a very interesting question from Yes that I'm taking because I know you also have you also have worked in product management, so I think that would be interesting to hear. Liz, may you touch on the difference in responsibilities between product manager, owner, and product designer?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, they're quite distinct. So as I said, like usually you work in these kind of like trio combinations, which is product manager or owner, designer, and then the developer lead or multiple developers. And there's a good reason for that. I mean, there are companies that are breaking this up at the moment, like Airbnb. However, I do not expect to see that in every company in the next couple of years. It might, if that really is a model that ends up working really well for many, many organizations. But we are still, a couple of years away from that, I think. So overall, the differences are the product manager really cares about like making sure to decide what is actually getting developed. They do discovery, so they talk to customers, they like take a look at product metrics and see if like how they can basically make out what to do next with the product and make decisions on that. They are very data driven in that sense, and but they don't sketch the solutions. Ideally, some product managers do, and usually designers don't like them for it if they do that. But usually what they do is they present a scoped out problem to the designer, and then the designer takes all of that information, all of that all of these things that they get from product manager or have even worked on with them together. Very often a good product manager will involve you as a designer to make sure you're in the loop from the beginning and also can input on some things because you do have a product vision as well as a product designer. And then you take that and you're responsible for the solution. So they are responsible for finding the problem, you're responsible for finding the solution, and the developer is responsible for implementing the solution. If you want to think about it like that, I think that is the best, the very best description of that. And there are things that are a little bit fluid. I gotta say that. Like you as a product designer, you will also think about the metrics. You will make sure that your solution will really address the metrics that you need to address. And you will also sit on customer calls or user calls to find out what the users actually need and what the actual problem is. And you will also ideally have somewhat of a say in like what's actually going to be tackled next. But that's like where the product manager has a little bit of the high ground or like the upper hand. Whereas you have the upper hand when it comes to the solution. The product manager will still communicate with you during that phase. You will still have to make sure that the product manager also thinks that that is a good solution for the problem. But that is where you have the upper hand and can say, okay, but based on this and this and this, I think we should definitely do it like I did said. And yeah, but I think I answered that question. Yeah.
No, it was a great answer. So would you say that product designers are the one who focus on solving the problem, and then the product managers are the one who run the process to make sure that that problem is solved, more or less?
They find the problem in the first place usually, or at least they pick the problem to work on, like both of it basically. And yeah, and again, like, well, that being said, they are still involved in each other's business. They still like participate in their processes, that's the ideal state. Let's say that's the ideal state, at least from my perspective. And yeah, but they're definitely distinct things.
Yeah, and product designer work closely more with customers and not product managers.
Well, both can. Like product managers often hop on calls with customers as well to understand the problem space, really. And the designers then care more about, you know, when the problem was presented to them, then the product designers often still talk to customers or users to find out more specific things about the problem, like like details. But I'd say they both talk to customers for sure.
Very interesting. Okay, we have a question also from Jesse, very related to that, because we know you can leverage your career in product design from UX design. But his question is, can someone progress from product designer to a product manager as a career progression?
Well, so this sounds like product manager is a more desirable thing than product designer, or like something you have to first reach. As I just said, product management is distinct and is a different thing. It is not like a completely different world and whatever else. As I just said, they are close together. But that is not necessarily how you become a product manager. You can. I've seen people do this, like a few at least, go from product design to product manager, but not because that is a traditional career path. You can take a product management course at CareerFoundry as well, and just become product manager if that's what you want to be. If you want to become a product designer that has like, let's say, a particular strength in like product management skills, you can become a product designer and upskill a little bit in that area. For example, that's me. Like I was a product manager before and then transitioned into design. So I still have those skills. And now that's like one of my strengths as a designer as well, that I bring like product management skills to the table that many other designers don't have. And it's something that makes me a bit more unique and like makes me, that's one of my strengths. But overall, either you want to be a designer or you want to be a product manager. You will have to make a decision on that. But that doesn't mean that you can't like lean towards that still like a little bit. But overall, you should make a decision. What is it in general that you want to go for?
Nice. Okay, I'm mindful of the time, so let's take a couple of more questions. Rawan is asking if you could provide a little bit more information about Open Doors. Maybe you could share in the chat the link. Maybe you could share what do you do there, because I think it's super interesting. I already told you that it's amazing what you do in Open Doors. So yes, it's interesting to know.
Yes, very happy. I'll put 2 links in the chat. I'm not sure if they work now. No, obviously they don't, because I I did 2 links. Let me send them separately. So one is the newsletter and one is the platform itself. The platform itself is currently very much still focused on being a job board. This will change this year because the way that I help juniors succeed has gotten a lot broader than just providing them with job opportunities. These are all jobs that are suitable for juniors. Either those are internships or dedicated junior roles, or roles that are generally open to juniors as well. You will not find something that will ask for more than 2 years of experience in here, even though those jobs are still in reach for you as someone who transitioned into design under specific circumstances. I just wanted to make sure that these are just the jobs that are really meant for people entering the industry. So those are there. As I said, this will change a little bit. The job board will still exist and it will still be maintained, but Open Doors has done a lot more since then. The newsletter is probably the biggest outlet at the moment. And I feature, first of all, the latest jobs from the job board every week. But more importantly, there is one article that's always focused on something that is important to junior designers at this point. Mainly things focused around the job search, or also things that are more focused on skills that might be worth investing into as a junior designer, for example. Or also sometimes tools that I use for specific things that can help you do things faster or better. Those topics vary a little bit, but they are always relevant to kind of what juniors problems. And then also I have a portfolio showcase in there. So every week I show one junior portfolio, usually submitted by these people themselves. That is an excellent example of a good portfolio for juniors. So all the other readers have inspiration, and the people that are featured get some exposure. There are certainly a few recruiters and people more senior reading this newsletter as well. And I've seen people share about being featured on LinkedIn, and some people reported back that even attracted recruiters and had comments on that saying, let's connect. Obviously there's no promise that will happen, but so whenever I get a good portfolio, I see a good portfolio, I reach out to the people and make sure to feature it. So make sure to subscribe. It's completely free. I do offer paid services as well when it comes to portfolio and resume reviews. If you really want super detailed, in-depth guidance to what you can improve and how you can stand out. But most of the stuff that I do is free completely. And the things that are currently free will stay free forever.
So thank you, Florian, for sharing great resources for the new visitor. So I highly recommend you to sign up. Also, as you mentioned, we don't have so much time to take longer, but the portfolio is one of the most important thing for designers to land a job. I would like to mention that in the CareerFoundry program, one of the biggest takeaway is that you will work with your mentor and a career, especially on your portfolio, which is really good for your job search. So, I would like to close the Q&A with a question from Lily, which is really nice. Can you? Sorry. How do you stay updated with the latest design trends and technology, apart from the resource you just shared from Open Door? Any other resources you could recommend?
Yeah, to be fair, on Open Doors, I don't focus too much on trends actually, because usually as a junior, you should keep an eye on it, but usually you have bigger problems. This will become relevant once you're on the job and start to fully work in the field. But obviously still happy to answer that. Before I do, I want to say I put my LinkedIn link into the chat, and you can reach out to me with whatever question you might have that wasn't answered. Maybe you didn't feel comfortable putting a question in there. Maybe it just comes up later or it was purely not answered because we ran out of time. But feel free to just connect with me, message me, no matter if you're someone thinking about transitioning or if you already did that and now have questions on how to change around your job search, whatever else it might be, feel free to just get in touch with me. So now to your question. It really depends on what you like to consume in that sense. So there are a couple of newsletters. One is called UX Tools. That is a really good one. It's run by a guy called Tommy Gioco, who I really admire. He's been in design for quite a while now, and he acquired that newsletter earlier this year or late last year. And this page is generally focused on design trends and focuses. And he's a really, really cool guy. So definitely subscribe to his newsletter. Then there is a podcast called Deep Dives by someone called Michael Rittering. He interviews super influential designers, not on a weekly basis, but bi-weekly basis. People that work at Figma, people that work at Notion, people some of the first designers of, for example, Facebook, he recently had on his podcast. And they talk about what drives the industry, those changes that we see that really make big impacts. That is a podcast I can absolutely recommend. I think he's also on YouTube with the videos, and he also has a newsletter in which he sums those interviews up if you don't like to listen to podcasts. So make sure to check that out. And then maybe last one, and let me just think. So generally, there are a lot of blogs out there that are very, very good. But I think when it comes to industry standard, you should always take a look at the Norman Nielsen Group and NG. This is the state-of-the-art reference for UX, at least. Not so much on UI, but for UX, which is, as a product designer, very relevant for you. You should always take a look at that blog because they do feature everything. They critically look at trends as well and make sure that they provide you with best practice. So if you read something there, you will never feel you should never have a doubt applying what you read there when you do that, because they are really at the top of the game. The name of the podcaster is Michael Ridd, R-I-D-D. I will put it in the chat. Michael Ridd. And the podcast is called Deep Dives. You can find it on all platforms. He's a really, really cool guy. And these interviews are really inspiring. Those are really the stars of the industry, really. Mostly just normal people, to be honest. At least it sounds like them. But they have designed some of the products we use every day. And it's very, very, very cool to hear what they have to say. Yeah,
Great.
that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing these great resources. They sound super, super good. So I hope you can follow and learn trends in the product design field there. Also, I share the link of the CareerFoundry blog, the product design part. There are so many great articles regarding product design, so you could have a look and read great articles there. I would like to thank you, Florian, for answering all of the questions in a really nice and informative way. So thank you so much for your great work answering the questions, and also for everyone for being here and for posting their questions. I would like to remind you that this February, we are offering a limited time offer worth up to $1,365 and 1,200 euros of our product design program. So if there is anyone here interested in transitioning into product design, you could book a call with one of our program advisors to get more information regarding this offer. And you can do that by simply clicking on the sticky note that you can see at the top of the chat. And yeah, that was all. If you enjoy this session, we will have another event next week in product design. So I would like to share the link there in the chat. So it's a product design info session. So you can learn more about product design and learn more about our program. So I leave you there the link. And then that was all from today's session. Thank you to everyone who stayed until the end, because we are kind of 20 minutes longer. But thank you to everyone for being with us. Thank you to Florian for the great presentation and for being with us. Florian will be back to the channel, so we will keep you updated. And have all a great day.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It was a pleasure to be here. Talk soon, hopefully. Cheers.
Thank you.